Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you and walk you through another way that you can use these tonic herbs, these tonic herbal extracts, in form of making chocolates. Now I will forewarn you, number one, I've cut off a little bit of my head so you can actually see what's going on in the counter space. Number two, it's been a couple of years since I've made chocolate in this way, so I'm just going to pull from memory and it's going to be kind of an adventure. We'll see how it's going to turn out. Now these chocolates that I'm going to be making is very similar to something that I used to sell actually in a store right down the street when I had the tonic bar there, and the chocolates really sold quite well and was surprisingly one of our best-selling things. And you know, I spent probably 6 hours or more a week just making huge batches of chocolates and, you know, eating a lot of it along the way. So what we're going to do in this video is kind of tie back into that. So first and foremost, you may have noticed in my previous video on making chocolate, I just used one of those cacao paste bars from Ultimate Superfoods. After some reflection, I don't really care for that anymore. It's too rich, it's too heavy. It's not something I really look forward to eating. It's a little too medicinal. So what I did today is I went to the health food store and I bought some cacao butter. This is just the raw, verified, whatever, Indonesian cacao butter from Essential Living Foods. You can use this, you can use the stuff from Ultimate Superfoods, it's really good as well. Use both, I like both. This is my first time using this particular brand of cacao butter, and so far it has a different smell and a little different taste, so we'll see how it turns out. So in my cup here we have just under a half a cup of total oil, and I didn't really measure it out. I just took a handful of chunks, threw it in, and did a double boil in this pot here with some hot water. Put this in, heated it up, melted it. Pretty easy to do. This melts at like 94, 96 degrees. I also added about maybe 1 part or half a part coconut oil. So let's say we had 4 ounces of cacao butter. I'd want to add about ½ ounce or so around there to the cacao butter. Now that coconut oil has a lower melting point, so you don't want to use too much, otherwise you're just going to be left with something that's going to melt at like 70-something degrees, whereas the cacao butter is solid at room temp, so that's why we want that chocolate consistency that we're going for. So by adding some coconut oil, we minimize that waxiness that we would get if we just used pure cacao butter, but we don't go too far on the other end so it won't melt at room temp. Hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is use a little bit of coconut oil to cut the cacao butter. So for our sweetener, we're going to be using raw honey and stevia. But if we were to throw that in right now, it would be kind of sticky and would be harder to mix that on the powder. So what we want to do is go ahead and just add in our powders first. So we're going to be using chocolate and some Lacuna and some Hoshiwu and some whey protein. So I don't remember exact ratios for what I'm going to do, so we're just going to feel this out and see how it comes out. I can kind of remember how it feels, because if you go too far, you get fudge. If you don't do enough, you just get kind of not a very good texture or mouthfeel. So herbs, we're going to use Lacuna and we're going to use Hoshiwu. So this Lacuna here is 10-to-1 concentrated extract, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a tablespoon and see how that works. That might turn out to be too much. It might turn out to be the perfect amount. So I'm just going to dump that in and really just stir that up. And that instantly starts to dissolve and really change the color of the cacao butter. But actually what I wanted to do first was take a pinch of salt and mix that in there. And we want to do that first so we can make sure that that will all mix around, and you won't get, you know, some pieces that are salty, some pieces that are not. So next I'm going to take, I guess, about a tablespoon of Hoshiwu and add that in there. So again, this is a 10-to-1 concentrated extract. And mix that in. And while I'm doing Lacuna and Hoshiwu, it was just my mood, really. Lacuna, you know, it's one I kind of cycle on and off. Hoshiwu cycle on and off. But together in synergy, Lacuna contains, you know, L-dopa, serotonin, all these tryptamines, all these feel-good chemicals. Hoshiwu contains monoamine oxidase inhibitors, meaning it'll keep serotonin and dopamine and feel-good chemicals in the brain longer. and it's also just kind of calming and stabilizing and grounding. So that's why I put those in there. You could use whatever herbs you're working with. Actually, I'm going to add in a few capsules of reishi just to kind of, for fun. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to mess with it because I didn't even think about it first. So let's just move on. So you could add reishi, you could add whatever herbs you're working with. Start off with less, add more as you go along. So that's what we're going to do here. Now I'm going to add 1 and 2 tablespoons of cacao powder. I think that's from Ultimate Superfoods, really good cacao powder. So now we're just going to mix that up. Mix it up really well, get out all the clumps. Make sure that you get a good even mix. Make sure it's not too clumpy. And go ahead and give it a smell when it's already getting really, really chocolatey. So I'm just going to mix this up really, really, really well. And notice, paying attention to consistency, there's still a lot of clumps in it, which tends to happen sometimes with this cacao powder because it has a little bit more fat content. And if you spray chocolate on yourself, you know, just take it. It's fun. It's part of the process. For me, I've been doing this so long that I would just have certain clothes that I would wear because I would just ruin everything because I get chocolate all over me, all over my pants, all over the cabinet, it just gets everywhere. But it's part of the fun, and when you're making huge batches, it kind of goes with the territory. So you want to make sure and mix it up really, 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 really well. And so far it's looking pretty good. Smells good. So now what I'm going to do is just dump in some stevia, and I'm just using vanilla. We're going to go ahead and put that in there. Just 1 squirt of vanilla stevia. If you use regular stevia or none at all, but just realize you'd have to use more honey. So now I'm just going to dump in about a tablespoon of raw honey. We're going to see how that's going to change the consistency. Now, to be quite honest, agave, clear agave actually mixes much better in chocolate, but obviously I don't have any, and all I have with me is honey. So I'm just going to go ahead and just use that because it's what I have, and I really like honey. But keep in mind, if you had maple syrup, you could use that. Just use less. Pay attention to how the taste comes out. You could use honey, you can use agave, whatever works. So now everything's pretty well mixed, as you can see. Got a nice smooth consistency. So now, most importantly, what we need to do is taste it. And it's really good. It just needs more cacao powder. How I know that is because the predominant flavor is cacao butter, and you want that to be balanced with the cacao powder. So I'm going to add that in there. I just added another 2 tablespoons. Now, as you can see, it really thickened up the consistency of our batter, or our oil, so to speak. So I'm just going to go ahead and just keep stirring. So we've got some clumps. Keep stirring, and go ahead and give it another taste. Definitely, it's getting pretty good actually. It's nice. It's just, this cacao butter has a lot different flavor. I'm not quite used to it. So I'm going to keep mixing, last thing I'm going to add, just to give it a kind of milky, creamy component, is a scoop of whey protein. And you know, this milky, creamy component is just going to kind of cut some of the heaviness or bitterness from the chocolate, and it's just going to kind of bring things together. You could use maca. That's a good emulsifier. Has a kind of a creamy consistency. You could use, you know, some vanilla powder would also bring in that component. That's also part of the reason why I use that whey, is because it has vanilla in there as well. It has vanilla bean in it, so it's just going to make this taste really, really good. So as you can see, our texture and consistency has changed quite a bit. Just going to keep mixing that up, I'm going to go ahead and give it a taste. And so far, it tastes really, really good. I think what I could do is add more mucuna and add more honey. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and add another tablespoon of Macuna, I guess. Add that. Give that a stir. Go ahead and just mix everything in. Throw a little bit of Macuna on myself for good measure. And then lastly, another little spoonful of honey because we want this to taste really good. So another spoonful of honey. I'm just going to give this a mix, keep stirring it up. Then what we're going to do next is I'm actually going to make kind of a nut butter filling to go in the middle of this chocolate. So what you want to do is either A, make that nut butter filling first, which I forgot to do, or B, make it second. What you need to do is set aside your chocolate and make sure that it stays warm, because otherwise it'll harden up and that really won't be good for your chocolate because it'll be stuck in here. So I'm going to let you see this. You can see it has this nice thick creamy consistency. You can see that kind of shine and the glimmer. Hopefully you can see that, the glimmer that's getting on there. And that's really how you can tell that you've gotten the consistency that you're looking for, because it's not too thick to where it's fudge, but it's not runny either to where it's just oil. So what I'm going to do is just keep stirring this, keep working this, and then set it aside and let it stay warm. So now, what I'm going to do here is take my blender. I'm going to take some hemp seeds, and some maca, and some coconut oil and honey, throw it all in the blender and make kind of a nut butter. Now, to be quite honest, a coffee grinder would be ideal to do this in, but because I don't have one, it actually broke before I was filming this, we have to use the blender. So what I'm going to do here is just eyeball it again and take this bag of hemp seeds. You can use pumpkin seeds, you can use cashews, you can use any nut or seed that you really wanted to. So what I'm going to do is just take, and I'm going to have to do a little bit more just because if I do, you know, like 2 tablespoons, it's not really going to grind up in this blender. And I haven't really been eating these hemp seeds anyway, so this is going to be a good use for them. So there we go. We have about, I don't know, half a cup or so of hemp seeds in the blender. And now, the idea of having this in there is it's going to be a really salty, creamy component to the sweetness and slight bitterness from the chocolate. So we want to add a few, you know, decent pinches of salt. So that's 2, and I'm going to add 3. Now we want to just make sure it gets blended up really, really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some coconut oil and go ahead and just take a few spoonfuls in there. So hopefully you can see this. If not, I hope my back looks nice. That's 2, 3, like 4, you know, 5, 6 spoonfuls. Enough because this is going to need some liquid to blend. And fortunately, it's really hot here today, so this coconut oil is already liquefied and melted. So now what I'm going to do is just throw the lid on this and hopefully. Alright, so I went ahead and ground up my hemp seeds in the blender as best I could. It's not quite as creamy as I'd like, but given the circumstances, it's kind of the best I can do. As you can see, have a nice kind of buttery consistency, obviously relative to the hemp seeds. So what I'm going to do now is basically make a nice little salty nut butter component to offset and balance the chocolate. Now, I will say I cheated just real quick and put a bottom layer of chocolate in the container, put it in the freezer so that I can go ahead and form up, and I'll show you that in just a second. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and make this this quote nut butter. So maca is very nutty and very kind of creamy, and I think it would be a really good counterbalance to the chocolate layer. So I just added about a tablespoon in there. And again, you want to start off with less depending on how much quote nut butter you're actually making. So now I've made that and mixing it in. And as you can see, it's kind of turned to not that solid of a consistency. It's kind of powdery. So what we need to do for that is, number one, we're going to add a little bit more coconut oil because we lost some in the blender from, you know, sticking to the sides, soaking it up, etc. So I just added another 2 teaspoons of coconut oil and just kind of stir that in. And as you can see, it's starting to get sticky already, starting to really come together. So sometimes, you could do a double chocolate. You could have this as a chocolate layer as well, if that's something you're into. I've done that before, and it's really, really good. Before also, I've done, white chocolate with chocolate in the middle, meaning instead of adding cacao powder to that cacao butter, just add maca, lucuma, tocotrienols, whey protein, things that are white and creamy, and then just put your chocolate in the middle. It's a really interesting thing to do. And I did make a lot of variations on that as well back in my days as a chocolatier. So actually, it just reminds me of one thing. When I was, in kind of our day or whatever, we were entered into local chocolate competition. It was always different restaurants, always different chocolate shops and fancy fine dining establishments, and then us competing in this chocolate tasting event, which people paid a lot of money to get into. It was like tuxedo dress kind of an event, and then here's me and my friends showing up in basically what I'm wearing now. So it's, we didn't really know what we were getting into. But anyways, we did pretty well. We got a lot of good reviews, but we ended up losing to no less than chocolate covered bacon. That's right, chocolate covered bacon won the chocolate competition, which to me it's like such a cop out. Like, it just made some probably weak chocolate out of a box or something, mixed it together, dipped it in bacon, and they won. Whereas people like us made everything from scratch. Lots of other people, put a lot of time and energy and effort into their creation. So, we battered our honey, battered our maca, and it's pretty good. Has a nice salty, creamy, nutty component, and it has pretty much the right texture. So, but it needs something to make it a little more nutty. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more maca, just to really give it that nice nutty, creamy flavor. So we're gonna mix that in there, and that's mixing up nicely. It's soaking up all that additional liquid that we put in there. So I'm gonna add another little pinch of salt. With chocolate, it's pretty much like what you're seeing now. You just do it to taste. You do it as you go along, and eventually you discover a recipe that really works for you. And that's how we discovered the recipe, or I discovered the recipe that we sold a lot in stores locally here, is just experimenting and making things for myself. And literally, I would make chocolate every day for myself religiously, and that was a meal for me. It was a big bowl of chocolate. So as you can see, we have this nice nut butter consistency. Perfect. Once you've hit this kind of consistency, that's what you're looking for, and your job is pretty much done. So perfect. Nice, salty and crunchy, creamy, perfect. So let's check on the chocolate that was in the freezer. And as you can see, I just layered on a nice small layer at the bottom. It's solid. So now what I'm going to do is basically just take this, drop it down in here, and then smash it out into a nice layer. And another beautiful thing about making chocolate is, you got to get your hands dirty, you got to get your hands in there. And there's lots of options that we could do with this. We could do multi-layered chocolate. We could, I could do one layer nut butter, dump chocolate over it, freeze it again, do another layer of goji berries. I could make a cream or a vanilla frosting with whey protein and vanilla powder and whip that up and have that as a layer. I could make a berry puree and put that as a layer. I mean, the possibilities are really just up to you and your imagination. And that's the beauty of making these kinds of chocolates, is you can make something, you can just walk to the health food store, get a few basic ingredients, and make some really serious gourmet things, which I think is pretty fun and exciting. So we have our layer here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little multi-layer treat, because that sounds like fun to me right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just get my chocolate out and pour a little bit in, just enough to cover can see there, it's nice covered up. So I'm going to put this back in the freezer, and I'll be back in a second to let you know how. Alright, so now that we have our chocolate out of the freezer and it's the second layer is solidified, we're going to go ahead and add the last layer of nut butter and then the last layer of chocolate, and then put this in for a final freeze. Alright, so here we are with our finished product. As you can see, we have this nice multi-layered appearance. And I basically just took my knife and cut this in half. So I'm going to now set aside half and take another half and chop myself off a little piece here. Spill a little bit on the floor for a good measure. And I'm going to taste it and see how it turned out. It's really, I'm actually quite pleased with how it turned out. Really well balanced. That top layer, definitely more bitter, as I predicted from the reishi. And that nuttiness from the hemp seeds is really offsetting all the different flavors. Plus we've got 3 amazing herbs in there: reishi, hoshibu, and mucuna. Also hemp seeds and coconut oil and cacao butter, all very healthy fats. Sorry I can barely talk, it's so good. And I got whey protein in there as well. So basically this is just, you know, really delicious chocolate that you could package, obviously a little more pretty, obviously a little more consistent, and sell it in a store. People would pay money for this because it's so delicious. And not only that, people did pay money for this. People paid me money to make this for them. Make them for them in large batches and private batches for parties, for different catering events, things like that. And this is basically the recipe that I used. So hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully it's showed you how you can use herbs and chocolates just to have fun and make some really delicious things. I don't really have anything else to say. I'm really blown away by this. I'm just going to go eat it and probably play guitar or go for a walk or something. So if you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.